Welcome to Leave No Doubt. I've been joined by recently retired Premier League footballer and current Watford under-18s manager, Charlie Daniels. Charlie, thank you for being here, mate.
No response. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, appreciate it. How you doing? All good?
I'm all good, thanks. Yeah. Just finished training. Lads are off to college now, so it's a nice little afternoon.
Yeah, good. To get us started, mate, I want to discuss your early career, if possible. You're a young player at Tottenham and worked your way up through the academy when there wasn't really under 23s or under 21s at that time. It's just sort of a reserve team that you managed to get yourself into. After a couple of loans in League One and League Two, you ended up permanently leaving Tottenham for Leyton Orient in League One. And now we know, obviously, that you were capable of being a Premier League player. You made just about 130 appearances, which is obviously incredible. What do you think it was about you at that time that found it difficult to break into Tottenham's first team, knowing that what we do now, that you did have the ability to play?
It was a strange one, really, because I felt that I was good enough. I've always felt that I was good enough, and it's just getting opportunities. So I saw a good few people in my academy side get opportunities in the Europa League at that point. So Andrew Bartram I think he got an appearance. Dorian DeViet got a good few appearances. So there was a good number of academy players that actually had an opportunity. But unfortunately, I wasn't one of them. Now, that's just football. Sometimes you don't get an opportunity. So for me, going on loan, I went to Chesterfield to begin with. Unfortunately, talking about football. So my first game as a professional was against Leyton Orient. Went up there on the Thursday, trained on the Friday, had to go to the stadium, didn't know where it was training Friday, so I had to wait around, then found a park, so then trained, come back, they said, okay, shirt and tie tomorrow. I was like, right, I haven't got a shirt and tie, I ain't got a suit, so mum and dad had to bring one up, Saturday morning, so then I had to wear that, lost 1-0, manager got sacked. And he got sacked the next day, so I was like, oh, what is going on here? I've just left an academy and gone into first team football. Manager got sacked the next day, who's brought me in. Then we had Swansea away the next day, and unfortunately I hurt my knee, so then that was the end of the loan. But no, welcome to the real football.
So your first experiences, obviously, of professional football were far away from that comfortable environment, possibly, that you've been at Tottenham. How were you prepared for that?
No, I don't think you can prepare, because at academy level, managers don't change. So then going in like, and a manager's trusted you enough to take you on loan, to bring you into the club, and then you've played one game and all of a sudden he's gone. So then you're going in on the Monday thinking, well, what's going on here? It's all changed, and it's an eye opener. It's an eye opener, but the world of football, this is what happens. And unfortunately, managers lose their jobs quicker than players do. And so that was my first loan. And then, so I went back to Tottenham. I had a season on loan at Leyton Orient. Really enjoyed it. Really thought I progressed. Had a really enjoyable time. Then I had a year left on my contract. So that first part, I went, look, I'm going to give it a real go now. See if I can make a chance for myself. I'm going to train as well as I can. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to try and be the best person I can be. And if I get given a chance, I'm going to take that chance. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. I didn't get that chance, so it's not a problem. So I moved on to Leyton Orient.
What's that like? I'm interested to find out, Chaz, a little bit more about that mentality and I'm going to talk to you about a little bit. I've got a section on it that I've planned for, because your mentality was always elite. And I'm interested to find out where that come from. But talking about that sort of early start at Tottenham, when you're so desperate to get an opportunity to play, which as you know now, as the academy manager at sort of like a top club, really, all young players are desperate for an opportunity to come. And like you're saying, you wanted to do the best version of yourself. You trained hard. You did everything right, and that opportunity never came. How difficult was that for you to stomach?
Yeah, it's frustrating. It was very frustrating, but if you don't get given a chance, there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, I was very fortunate that my parents saw the bigger picture. You know what I mean? If as long as you're working hard, as long as you're trying your best, and at the end of the day, it's all about opinions. And I was unfortunate. I didn't get a chance. Then they signed Gareth Bale, 10 million, and then I was like, yeah, it's probably about time to go. It's probably about time to go. So I think I was about 19, 20 at the time, and I thought, yeah, I've tried all that I can at Tottenham, so let's try and make a career for myself as a professional player.
A lot of people who I've spoken to are sort of deep into their careers. It's very rare that I've obviously had the opportunity to talk to like a youth player who's not experienced anything. And quite a lot of the guys that I've spoken to talk about that football is all different opinions, but they get to a point where they understand that, and they're probably not as offended when somebody's not into them the older that they get. But obviously at a young age, how did that come from your parents that you know that they were able to instill that mentality in you that don't worry about that, it's just an opinion, like somebody else will be into you?
Yeah, so growing up, so my dad was in the army, so he taught me be very thick-skinned. You know, I was very drilled into that sense of do everything properly, make sure you're professional. The word professional is a big deal. You're a professional footballer. You're not amateur. You're a professional footballer. So behave like a professional. And then my mum was very driven on the school side of it as well. So she was even going through the academy. She was like, "Look, you got to concentrate on your schoolwork as well, because the likelihood of you not becoming a professional footballer is very slim." Now, obviously, any young boy was like, "Yeah, all right, mum," but it's true. I mean, I just put a stat up the other day. So people in the academy, only 8% of players make it professional. That are in academies. And if you say the percentage from kids playing in England to becoming a professional is 0.012%.
Insane.
So it's very, very slim that you're going to be a professional. So I was lucky, you know. I did, like anyone, I worked as hard as I could, you know, because it was my dream. That's all I ever wanted to be, was a professional footballer. So I worked as hard as I can, but you got to understand the other side, and that's where the parents become such a big thing. They got to look at the bigger picture. So if it didn't work at one club, it might work at another club.
How important now that you're getting an insight, obviously, into young guys' careers and their mindsets and their personalities, that how important are parents in you know, a young footballer's journey?
Massive. I've seen it in this short space of time. I've seen it. Parents can kill a child's dream. You say there's pushy parents and stuff like that that thrust everything on the kid, and they put so much pressure on the kid from a young age. They put so much pressure. It's too much. It's too much for some kids. You know, you just got to let them play. You got to let them develop. But let them develop in their own times. And because we're humans, some people develop quicker than the others. It's just natural. It's just natural. Whether that's physical or is it technical, tactical, they develop in different ways. But, you know, if you're getting pushed, if you're getting, you know, you're getting pushed by your parents, if you're getting everything's put down, you should be doing this, should be doing that, should be doing that. It wears a kid down. It wears anyone down. Not only just kid, and the amount of pressure you put on your child will affect the way that they play.
Are you able to see the difference between players that look like they're playing with pressure of their parents and those that are playing without it?
I think you can. Yeah, I think you can. Once you get to know them, not straight off the bat, but once you get to know them, you can understand the little effects that they have. And if they did have a bad game the night before, how they coming in on the Monday, Tuesday? Are they proper slumped over, that dragging their feet, you know what I mean? Or are they, okay, that game's gone, I had a bad game, let's analyse it, let's move on, that game's gone now, so let's try and be better next time.
See, like obviously you didn't break through into Tottenham's first team, but you are part of that first team environment whilst you were there. You broke through at Leyton Orient, which, you know, you're almost looking at it as like a step down to move back up, but that was still difficult to break through in that period of time that you were there anyway. You spent obviously years at Bournemouth at the very elite level. I'm interested to know, like, through the experiences that you've had, how difficult is it for youth players to make it at top elite clubs? I know that obviously, like, that we're talking about Leyton Orient, possibly not as a top elite club, but still elite. But those Tottenhams and Bournemouth, when they're in the Premier League, how difficult is it for a young lad to break into a first team at that top level?
It's very, because there's so much. We'll go back to pressure. There's so much pressure on first team managers now. They don't get as long as probably they should. So you have to go above and beyond what's expected of you to show an impression. So every time you step on a pitch is a chance to impress someone. Every time, you don't know who's watching. There could be the first team manager could be standing on the sideline, just walking past. It could be the academy manager. It could be a scout for another club. Someone's always watching as soon as you step on that pitch. So you have to be at your best every single day. And if you don't do that, you will fall away. You will fall away. So you need that elite mindset, and you have to build that over time. And that comes from probably ingrained from your parents, then from your teachers, then from your coaches. But it has to come from within yourself as well. That internal motivation, that self-motivation has to come from within yourself. So I say a lot of, I call it intrinsic motivation. So what are you doing when the coach is not watching? What are you doing in the gym when the sports science is not watching? Are you trying to improve, or are you standing about chatting? And these little 1%, or I know Eddie talked about it a lot, the 1% make a big difference. They add up.
Were you doing that before? Obviously, you were exposed to Eddie and his coaching methods. I mean, I can imagine that you were. But how old were you when you were aware of what sort of dedication you were going to need to have?
I'll tell you a story. So I went to, this was Tottenham, so I was 13, 14, something like that. Used to get there early. My dad always wanted to watch the warm-up. Watch Robbie Keane. Dad used to say, watch Robbie Keane.
This is turning up at first team games?
First, so White Hart Lane.
Yeah.
Watch Robbie Keane warm up. Look at him stretch. He said, look at the way he warms up. He said, you need to be that flexible. He said, you won't pull muscle if you're that flexible. And he was right. And then I was stretching after training, before training, at 13 years old. So we're going back a while. So this is kind of before sports science actually got involved, but I was stretching. I was running up and down stairs. He said, you got to build your muscles. He said, you have to have the power in your legs. If you don't have power, you can't get away from people. This is when I was playing left wing at the time, but even like little stairs, up and down the stairs, getting your foot movement, foot pattern. So it's working your hand-eye, foot coordination, going up and down the stairs. So I was going up 2 stairs, come back 1, up 2 stairs. Just going up and down my house. Mum hated it. But going up, little things like that. Getting, passing the ball up against a wall. I was lucky, house was next to an alley. There's like a wall, so every day, bang, up against the wall. Then I started in half volleys. And then you try and get like a rhythm. So I was standing up with my hand against the wall, like doing half volleys, and it's going just trying to get the rhythm in your head. Then 2 bounces, hit it against the wall, 2 bounce, hit it, 2 bounce, hit it, 2 bounce. So all these little things started to build up, but then it gets your touch. And now I realise what I was doing. It's getting ball mastery. So they talk about it a lot in academy. So ball mastery, touches the ball, everything I could, and so that's where it started.
I think that you've mentioned your dad a lot, obviously in that early journey, and I think most elite professionals, which you ended up becoming, have that nice relationship with their father that their father almost is an impression on them, and then they take that and do everything by themselves.
Yeah. So the funny thing was, he never played football, was not interested in football one bit. And then until I started playing, and then that was it. He used to watch it. So we was actually learning together.
At what point did his guidance and discussing the power obviously in your legs and the stretching and that sort of stuff, at what age can you remember that became you driving that and not necessarily you and your father?
Yes. Probably about 15, 16. When it gets to that
You leave school and
that cusp of, oh, am I going to get a scholarship? Am I not?
Yeah.
That's when like the self motivation comes, and because I was at Tottenham, big players. You know what I mean? Signed Jamie O'Hara from Arsenal. At the time, was a big player, and we had such a good group. And I was quite fortunate. Our academy team was very good. We got through to I think the semi-finals of the Youth Cup. We got through to the semi-finals of the league at that time. So we had a really good group, a really good core, a really good dressing room as well, which obviously you don't talk about, but it was really, really good. And it's that good. I always say this 2 years of your time is the best time in football. It's the best time. It's because you make friends for life, basically. So now I'm still in touch with people who are in my academy side now. It's such a fun time because you're learning together. It's new, it's fresh. You're working hard. You're trying to improve. But the hardest part is when you get the decision. And we're all in. It's a bit different now, but we was all in the dressing room, and you get called in one by one. Horrible, and you've seen some of your good mates getting told it's a no, crying. You're like, wow. I was one of the fortunate ones. I got one, but a professional contract. But you can't really be excited or happy because your mates are like devastated.
Mine was very similar. All in a classroom, all going in one by one. And actually, it was obviously a little bit of time before you joined Bournemouth. But the first team had like embargo, so they couldn't sign anybody. So actually, out of maybe the 10 second-year youth team players that we had, 6 or 7 of us had made appearances for the first team. So it wasn't like that in some youth teams you'd say like, oh, there's 2 outstanding players that are definitely going to be looked after. We're all sort of looking at each other like, it might be you. Right? It might be you. And obviously you ended up being one of those guys that managed to move on. What was your football life? I know you're talking about that it's the best time of your life, like socially, and it really is, but what did your football lifestyle look like in those 2 years? I'm interested because hopefully young players listen to this and they want to. A youth team you can be very manipulated by what other people are doing, and if your friends mucking about, it could be very easy to join in with that. And 2 years down the line, you think, oh, I wish I didn't do that. Yeah, it's obviously quite apparent that you weren't doing that. So, what did your football lifestyle look like when you're in the youth team?
So before I started driving, I had to take a bus. So it took me an hour on the bus every morning. Then I don't know if you've ever been to Luxembourg Lane. Did you ever go there? So I had to get the bus and then walk down a couple of roads. And then Luxembourg Lane is a long lane. And it goes over the A406, I think it is, or M11. And then it goes down. So it's I reckon it's about 3/4 of a mile, this walk. Sometimes no one picked you up as you're walking down, chucking it down. Like they just drive past. You think, oh, Jesus. Like first team players used to drive past and that. But now, most of them, they stopped and picked you up. So that was tough. That was tough to begin with, obviously coming from school and then having to do that. But, that's growing up. I mean, that's what you have to do. And so that was that. And then socially, we was quite good. I was 18. When you turn 18, we started going out together. I think that brought us close together. But only when we won. So it was Saturday night, and then we used to go out, and then on the Monday we was back running again, or you was involved with the reserves, which you was hoping for.
What was that like being called up to reserve training?
Reserve at that time was really good. It was really competitive. He had a lot of first teamers playing. If they didn't play on a Saturday, they'll be involved in reserves. And so I remember my first team game, my first reserve game, Coventry away, I had Christian Ziege playing behind me, and I had Jamie Redknapp playing inside me, and you think, oh yeah, this is all right. And it was really good. And then you have games against, so I was at Tottenham, we played against Arsenal, and there was proper fans there, it was good atmosphere, and everyone was really up for it. So it was kind of like a first team environment game. So you had some good tussles with them, and it was really good at that time. And obviously they changed it to the under 23s, under 18s, and they've just changed it again to the under 18s and under 21, so they're going a bit younger. But for me, reserve team football was really, really good. You know, it was really competitive, and I think even the first team was enjoyed playing it. Not all the time, but sometimes.
What is there any long-lasting memories from those experiences that you can point to that helped you develop? Obviously, playing with those first-team players that ended up dropping down into reserve games.
Yeah, I think you just look at the way that they warmed up. Again, look at the way they acted around the place. Look at their mindset going into the game, how focused they were, and then just their qualities and how they got on the ball. What was their movement like? How demanding they were. So if you wasn't doing your job properly, they let you know. You have to demand from people. If you've done something well, encouragement. So it's the same thing. And whatever gets said on the pitch stays on the pitch as well. So they could be arguing with each other on the pitch about something that happened. And as soon as they step off, no problem, shake hands. That's what you mean. So it's being that professional, so that will to win.
A lot of the guys that we speak to have had successful careers, and they're able to become a different person when they play. To separate obviously their social personality and their athlete personality, if you would. Did you have that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite relaxed. I'd say off the pitch, quite laid back. I wouldn't say quiet, but I'm quite reserved in that sense. And then I like to think on the pitch I'm a big talker, organizer, get stuck in when I need to and stuff like that. So there's definitely a different side of me from when I'm on the pitch to when I'm off the pitch.
Did you have that from a young age? Was that natural, or did you have to learn that, do you think?
I think I had to learn that. Yeah, I think I had to learn that because probably going through the youth team phase. So that mindset of academy football, schoolboy academy football going into, 3 points football. So it is a different stage. And then when you go on loan, and say you're an academy player and you go on loan to a football side, and there's players in there who are trying to pay their mortgage, and you're there just going, it doesn't really matter. You should get told, no, this is costing me my job, basically. If you don't perform, you're going to cost me my job. Whereas you go back to your academy, but it's going to cost me my job.
See, when you've just touched on that, you sort of had to learn that to be able to, give your voice on a match day and on the pitch and stuff. Was that challenging? Because I can imagine, that you are reserved and you are very relaxed. But I'd imagine that going against that sort of impulse to be relaxed and to possibly not speak up, was it challenging for you was it nerve-wracking voicing an opinion? Or?
Yeah, I think it's the first time you do it. But then once I realised that, especially on the pitch, it's just on the pitch. Like you're just trying to win a game. It's nothing's ever personal. Now, when you're going in the change room and you're just voicing your opinion, that's all it is. It's your opinion that you're voicing. It doesn't mean we're going to fall out. We're not going to be friends, or we're not going to. Some people like socialise. If people want to socialise, we're not going to go out for a coffee or stuff like that. Nothing. It's everything's about the game, because the nature of the game is winning. We have to win. Now, what we might argue on is little things like, you should have passed it to my right foot, left foot, and you have an argument about it, or that was your man, that was my man. Little things like that. But once it's done, it's done. That's what people got to realise. People start, especially younger adults, they think that because I've said something to you, that's it for life. Like, I don't like you for life. No, it's just about the game. And once you realise, okay, we're putting that to bed straight away, as soon as the whistle goes, it's fine.
I think some of the best info I've had on giving information on the pitch was some of the best advice I had was that somebody told me once before, a coach said, and actually, Mark Molesley, current manager, says it, is that it's selfish to not give information. That the more quieter you are, the more selfish that is, that you're not helping somebody else out. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I read I forgot his name, the 11 Rings book. I don't know if you read that. No. Jackson, who managed the Chicago Bulls. So he says you've got to put the we before the me. So the team is more important than yourself. So when he went to the Chicago Bulls, there was a lot of individuals playing as individuals, and he molded them into a stage 5 team, he calls it. So there's different stages as you go through working up the pyramid. So you know what Eddie had with the pyramid. That's where it is, different stages. And once you say release that selflessness and be selfless, it makes the team better. Now, if you look at any great team and like the individuals who win all the accolades, the player who wins all the accolades is not necessarily selfish. Now, he's getting all the accolades because his team is performing. And if he's not performing well for the team, and he might have to do loads of selfless stuff, but then he might get that goal. Let's talk about Salah. There's so much running for the team, running in behind, but he gets the goals and he gets all the accolades. But if the team wasn't working with him, and if he wasn't working for the team, he wouldn't get any of the accolades. You understand what I'm saying? It's prioritizing the we instead of the me.
It's interesting because, you know, obviously now you're working with young players. When I was a young guy, I can separate both my mentalities from when I was a young player. And, you know, I was never really an important player at Bournemouth. Like, I was obviously involved in the club's success without ever really being a big part of it. It wasn't like a main starter. But my mindset at the time was, if I get in a team, I want to play well because I've got to prove that I'm good enough to play. Whereas now, I'm playing in a team where, you know, I know the manager will pick me. So the emphasis is on more the result of the team than more so my own performance. And that's, how difficult is it, you know, are you seeing that now as a manager? Because it's very challenging, and it's almost quite obvious that if you allow yourself to be a team player before you are an individual player, then everybody else might end up being successful. But at youth level, everybody's trying to make it.
Yeah.
So it's super tough to be like, oh, I want you to be a team player, but then you might sacrifice the opportunity to showcase your ability.
Yeah, I understand that. I understand what you're saying.
How
But
tough is that?
if you don't work for the team, you might not get the opportunity to perform on the ball. So if all your attributes are on the ball, but you don't work for the team off the ball, your team might not have the ball as much as if you work that little bit harder. And same if you're. So it's kind of I understand what you're saying, which is right, because you've got to obviously show yourself as a player. But if you don't show yourself as a team player as well, you probably won't go very far. Now, you might go to a certain level, but if you want to go to the top, you need to be both.
Totally agree. I want to move on a little bit, mate. I want to talk to you about the sort of, when you obviously did leave Tottenham, you went to Leyton Orient, and you ended up having, you know, almost a rapid rise really through the leagues, obviously to the top level. You had 1 year in League One, and you obviously moved to Bournemouth and then got promoted. You had 1 season in the Championship, and the following year were promoted. In the Premier League, obviously, you end up spending 5 years, you know, playing very consistently and obviously very well. Do you think, or did you think, that you were a Premier League player or capable of being a Premier League player when you made that move to Leyton Orient in League One?
Yeah,
you did.
I did, and that was, maybe it's a bit arrogant, but because I trained with them and because I knew what the level was, I felt I could have been if I was given that opportunity. Now I think you have to have that mindset. You have to have that self-belief. So even I went to Leyton Orient, and I had a fantastic time living at home. Still, well, moved into a flat, but still living where I grew up. Good coaches, great club. You know, my local club. You know, I used to go watch them when I was 9, 10, like a tenner for a season ticket. So me and my mate got a season ticket. It was there. It was, you know, it was my club, and to represent them, and we done actually quite well as well. So it was nice. But I always thought if I got onto the next level, which was the Championship, I reckon I could do that. But then I had to prove myself as well.
Yeah, there's a lot of talented young players now, of which I'm including you in sort of that bracket of elite young players from Premier League academies that don't make it at their Premier League club and end up leaving and having to go and play at levels that are lower to ultimately establish themselves. And quite often that goes unsuccessfully
because of
a different environment and a different mentality and things like
ego.
that. Yeah, massive hit to the ego. But you didn't allow that to happen. Like you sort of used the word arrogant there, and I wouldn't say arrogant. I'd say you believed in yourself, which is actually super difficult. Really, it's a really challenging trait to have. How were you able to drop to that level and not allow it to be unsuccessful?
Probably ego again. No, I just thought I always wanted to be in the Premier League. I always wanted to be a Premier League player. So I just worked. And Grant Williams, who was the manager at Leyton Orient for a short-ish period, actually improved me a lot defensively. He's the one who actually grabbed me and said, like, you need to work defensively. So I was working on 1v1 defending, positional wise. Because I used to just bomb forward, bomb back, bomb forward, bomb back. So then I was working on my heading. Say 1v1 skills, just shape. Okay, the ball's over the other side. I need to be tucked in. Okay, when it comes out, I need to be out and get going. Timing of release and stuff like that. So he actually worked on me quite a lot. And probably that's why I did get a move to Bournemouth off the back of it.
Were you able to, at that age, can you pinpoint whether you were, because being coachable is something that a lot of the managers that I've worked with have said, and I'm interested because you use the word about yourself, and I'd use those words, ego and arrogant, like to sort of casually talk about it. But were you coachable? Because a lot of guys drop down their levels and think, I'm a little bit above this, so I'm not going to really listen to your opinion. You were able to drop down with the belief that you were able to play higher, but also took in information of the people around you that ultimately made you better. It's like, how were you able to do that? Because that's difficult.
Just listen. I think listening to people. I think a lot of people are very shut quite quickly because they're very dismissive of people's opinions. And I was always open. I mean, did I agree with everything people said? No. But I always listened. Because there might just be that one thing and you go, oh, that might help me. Just that one little thing. So you always got to listen to people. And so I listened, I coached, and when you start seeing improvements, you go, okay, there's a reason why you've done that, yeah. So little things like that. And because I always strive to be better, I always strive to improve myself. And what he did was right, and he played at a good level. I think he played for Wales. So he had knowledge, and he improved me a lot.
And what was it, you went to Bournemouth and were part of, it was only you that was playing very well and ultimately became successful, but there was about, six of you, at least 6 or 7 of you that ended up being in that League One team that got promoted and moved on and then to be consistent Premier League players. What was it about that Bournemouth environment, you think, from the League One season that you got promoted to the 2 years in the Championship, that allowed you all to become such, because you had the ability, obviously, but to consistently win games and to go up through the levels as you did, what was it about that environment?
I always say, I think living close actually helped us. I mean, you're talking about socialising. We were socialising every day. Yeah. After training, coffee, lads, walk down the beach, no problem. And you always, so say if you left your house and go for a walk, you'll always see someone. Like we used to see you, see Charlie, Cookie, all the time. I mean, we lived across the road from each other. Everyone lived so close, and I think it did help a lot. Now, if you add Eddie Howe and Jason Tyndall into that, it was a great environment. And then he started bringing back. Then he brought Simon Weatherston, and Tinners was there. Perchy come back. Fletcher's there. All good people who love the club. And when you're in that environment and you have that dressing room environment that we had, it was a special time, and then they started sprinkling like David James coming, didn't he? David James coming, Ian Hart coming, Sylvain Distin coming. It's been that really good bit of experience which we needed, I think, as a young group, inexperienced in the leagues, in like the Championship leagues, and then Artur Boric, you know, like little things, and but good people and the right people for the club as well. So the right type of people that we needed. So I think, but I do think living together, living close, actually helped us, because it's such a small space, Bournemouth, as you know, and all the girlfriends got along. Do you know what I mean? It was such a special place, and then winning obviously helps, and that brings us even closer together. So trying to get that ball rolling, and it just kept going and going and going and going.
And if try and go into a little bit more detail about you specifically, and because the training environment at the time, obviously there was a lot of you that were playing consistently week in, week out, and even though I was there and I was training, I wasn't one of those guys. I was involved in match days, not in a Championship. I wouldn't have been involved even if I wasn't injured. But in that League One year, obviously when we were super successful, training was so intense that I knew that if I had any sniff of being involved in a match day, I had to train well every single day. I used to get nervous for training. It's like the nerves that I feel now on a match day, I used to get every day at Bournemouth to train well. And I don't think of it like, and people have different training environments everywhere they go. Anybody listening to this who's at a different club, they may or may not, get a little bit anxious for training. I can't imagine that they do, because not all football clubs are like that. But the emphasis on training was enormous. And I think ended up, like you say, winning games off the back of it, ended up people realising how important training really was. For the benefit of everybody else, like what did training look like for you? How were you able to train to the intensity that you did, and then play games, and then recover? Like, give us an insight into what that was like.
Okay, yes. So, as you say, training was really intense. So I knew I had to be at my best, otherwise I wasn't playing. I was fortunate that I was playing at the time, and I wanted to keep on playing. That's the whole reason why I signed for Bournemouth.
But you even felt like, we all know, like, you're the left back. I think you wore number 11, but you know that you're the number 3, and you're playing week in, week out. But you still felt...
No. You never take stuff for granted. I always wanted, everyone used to say, oh, you're starting. You go, no. I still have to train properly, because if I don't train properly, I'm not going to play properly on the Saturday. So that was always my mindset. You train the way that you play. And I always went full out training. I mean, the training session was so good. I loved every... that's the difference, I think. I think I loved every training session, because every training session was different. It wasn't really... We didn't really do the same, maybe except on a Friday. But every training session we had was geared for the weekend. Now you start... Obviously, the older I got and the longer we was together, I started to see the patterns. And that's probably the coaching side coming out of it. But I just love training. I love training, and then you love training, staying out, doing extras, love doing extras at the right time, obviously, but I love doing extras, trying to improve myself. Then straight after, eating right and getting ice bath properly, skins on. Remember skins? Wearing skins. No, because I need to be ready for tomorrow. That session's done. Okay, let's start preparing for tomorrow straight away. Going home, eating right, sleeping. At that time, I didn't have children, so it was I only focused on me basically, which was good at that time. Then children come, and obviously your focus starts changing. But at that time, it was all about training and playing.
The extras. I wonder if you, like I obviously know about the extras and stuff, but that culture, that sort of that habit of doing extras was something that we all did.
I think we all stayed out.
Yeah, we all stayed. It was incredible that training would finish. Say training finished at, obviously for people listening, the benefit of them. Training finished at 12. People would be walking in at 1, regularly. Yeah. Like it'd be like they'd probably spend more time doing extras than what they would in a session. Yeah. And I remember when I was a young player, obviously like maybe 18, 19. Might have told this story on this podcast before and a different one, but I remember feeling like I was training to a level that was going to allow me to be involved more on match day. The team, it was a League 2 at the time, and the team were quite successful, winning most weekends, and I was, involved in match days, but never really a main player. Manager pulled me, Eddie Howe pulled me on after a training session and said, "Oh, I'd like to have a chat with you." And I was thinking, he's going to tell me I'm doing well. He's going to tell me that I'm going to be involved more. And I was travelling in with two older guys from Portsmouth who, like Lee Bradbury, Sammy Igo, they need to get home to collect their children from school and be there for them to get home from school. So after most training sessions, the guys, like rightly so, would go, "Oh, comparts, we're going. We've got to get changed and go." And I didn't have enough money to travel from Portsmouth to Bournemouth on my own every day. So I went with them. Like I used to get in the car. So I remember the manager, sat on a couple of football balls on a training pitch, and he said to me, "You're not doing enough." It was like, you're not doing absolutely nowhere near enough. And I was just not prepared to be told that I wasn't doing it. I felt like I was clear. I felt comfortable, felt like I was working hard in training sessions. But it was like, if you want to crack it, if you want to get anywhere near the team, you've got to do much more than what you're doing. I remember like going home, telling the guys in the car and thinking like, I've got to find a way to be there all the time. I moved the week after into digs. Like I asked the manager, like I told him, I said the next day, look, I want to be around, but I can't because of travel. He organised me digs to stay in. But it was from that conversation that almost ingrained extras in my mind, as in like, you cannot be successful unless you are or doing the bare minimum of just a training session.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that at Colchester, actually. Young lads, because it's a very young squad. And they just train, go in. It was doing my head in. I couldn't understand why they're not staying out and doing extras. And even like, so we used to stay out. I used to be doing the passing patterns with you. So the ball used to come into me, one touch into you, and centre midfielder turn, switch it. Then it used to come into me. I used to play the ball down the line. I still remember it now. Play the ball down the line, move forward. Then he used to be putting in crosses, then cutbacks, then recovering all the way back, start again. Just do it for an hour. But it happens in the game. So Steve Cook used to step in, play it to me. I used to play it back to you, switch to play. Little thing, you flip it around the corner. Little things like that. But it just worked in the game.
What's that like now with the youth players? Obviously, that you work. We were talking about your Watford youth team, but what's the culture like for extras and stuff?
They do. It's good. It's good at the minute. So I've plenty of players asking me. Luckily for me, it's me telling them not. They've got to stop because they've got college, or I think they're just trying to avoid college. But it's good at the minute. It still could be better. Now, when we talk about extras and what they think extras is totally different. Because they're young, they think extras is smashing balls in the goal or pinging the ball 60 yards. Extras is trying to improve you in the game situation. So for me, that was taking it on my back foot, finding the front players, finding you inside. If the pressure's coming, can I play it around the corner? Stuff like that. Doing my cutbacks, doing my crossing. So what we're trying to do now is getting the right time to get them little micro details in it. Now, it's hard because there's only me and an assistant and there's 24 scholars. So we've got to try and find the right time to try and incorporate them all into one little session, one little 15, 20-minute session. So that bit's hard. But the willingness for them to improve is great.
So what advice would you have, obviously, and I mean, I'm going to paint a picture for you that there's guys in other teams who are desperate to do these extras. They've listened to this conversation and they've watched, it's not rocket science, all the guys at the top level are doing extras after training and they want to do that, but they might not be in an environment that promotes it. What can they do? How can they go about it?
If that was me, I'd wait till everyone goes and come back. So if training finishes at 12 and everyone leaves at 2, I'd come back at 2. Come back at 2, 45 minutes, depending on what you do. I'll tell you what, if you ask a coach or anyone, sports science or anyone, would you mind coming out with me for 35 minutes, 30 minutes? I just want to improve this little thing. They'll do it. If they're the right coach or the right manager, they'll do it.
What's the difference, Chaz, between and obviously it's so nice that you've just finished and you've played it to the level that you have, and now you're coaching, because we can flip between the two opinions or experiences that you've got. Is that the information or the advice that I've always given people is if you want to work on something, say you're out of the team or a manager's told you, I'd like you to get better at this, or you in yourself have analysed your game and you think, I want to cross the ball better. But if I'm a young player and I come to you as my manager and say, oh, Charlie, look, I want to work on my crossing, can you help me? Or I say, I don't really need to do that. Like what's the difference between the two? I mean, and the difference is in what I'm focusing on is if I include you in that process as my coach, like what can that do?
For me, it feels good that you've acknowledged what you need to work on, and they go, oh, okay. And then I might go to the analyst. I go, okay, well, I'll talk to you tomorrow about it. Or, okay, leave it with me. I'll come back. Go speak to the analyst. Can you get some clips on him crossing well, him crossing not so well, or the opportunities he's had to cross and the different types of cross, so whether it's a cutback or whether it's from deep, or if it's one touch or two touch, something like that, or if he's taking a player on crossing the ball. Get some clips together. Okay, sit down, right parts. I've had a think about it. Come, let's have a look at a video. Let's go have a look at a video. Have a look at the video. Oh, so you didn't go. What could he have done better here? Look, you're getting in all these opportunities. Now, when you say your crossing's not so good, it might be off a one-touch cross, or it might be off the winger. Say you're for a right back, the winger's gone down the line, he's turned back, he's setting you, and you're trying to whip it in. You keep looping it up over the back, or you keep dragging it across the floor. Okay, let's work on that then. So that's what I mean by specific. You can define what type of cross you can do. If whether it's taking a player on, I'm running too quick, and you can't get the elevation on that cross. You go, okay, we'll work on that. And honestly, it would only take 15 minutes a day. 15 minutes every day to work on that one cross. And I'll tell you, by 2 weeks max, you'll be better at it.
I want to try and move on, mate, as well, because you've had, now that we are getting your insight into a coach, I don't want to try and bypass the things that you achieved as a player, because you've had some memorable moments in your career, like loads of them. So obviously been doing the research the last few days, and I was trying to whittle it down to the things that you've done that I want to focus on, but mostly goals, but like performances aside, like you've performed incredibly well when you haven't scored, but the memorable moments are goals, right? Mm-hmm. So the goal, like you had a solo goal away at Newcastle where you end up playing a 1-2 with Mark Pugh, and you dribble and you score. You score at home for Bournemouth against Arsenal. You cut inside and feed it in the bottom corner, and then that ridiculous goal against Man City that I'm sure you'll just watch forever. I'm not necessarily bothered about getting an insight into how did it feel when those moments happened. I'm more so interested in your mentality to even attempt them in the first place. So, I mean, even years ago, obviously, we did play together for a long time.
Yeah.
I always saw you as somebody who was, you had super confidence. You believed in yourself. And I know you casually used the word arrogant, but I don't think it was that. I think it was just a real belief in your own ability. So I'm interested if you can, give us an insight into not only be capable of achieving those moments, but like to even take it on in the first place. Like, what sort of mentality is that?
I don't know. I think it's just natural. As I say, so you talk about the half volley. You can take that all the way back to when I was kicking the ball against the wall. That half volley timing. You can take it all the way back to there. I used to love a half volley. So every time I get a half volley chance, I'm whacking it. And I think it's just to say that Matthew Said says about that 10,000 hours. 10,000 hours of just hitting the ball. I was just hitting the ball on that half volley. I just love hitting a volley. And it may have come from that, but it's just a natural instinct. If the ball's coming to me, it's bouncing that couple of times, and I'm just going to hit it. It's
insane, mate, to watch the goal and obviously I had an interest in Bournemouth in the Premier League and hoping you guys would do well. And I remember seeing the result, seeing that you'd scored, watching it on Match of the Day and just thinking, that is like, I know you were capable of doing that, but to even like, the ball was bouncing to you, and if anybody's not seen it, please go on YouTube and watch it. The ball's bouncing to you, and at what point like do you have the confidence, because it's super difficult that people would say like, oh yeah, I might be able to do that, but then they don't take the risk.
Yeah.
That's
a big thing that you just said there.
That's what I'm saying.
You've got to take it. Sometimes you've got to take the risk.
But how did you develop that mentality?
Great question. I think just playing and succeeding. And you say he's practicing, and then you just see it's just like a natural instinct. The ball's coming to me, it's bouncing up nicely, and you go, right, I'm going to hit this. Doesn't matter. If it goes wide, it goes wide. But if you don't take that chance, say if you don't shoot, you don't score. If you don't take that chance, if you don't take that opportunity that you have, it might not ever come again. Sometimes you have to grasp it.
See, though, that thick skin that you've got, because imagine you take on that half volley, and let's take it like your whole career. You're super talented, but not every action that you've ever attempted has come off. But you're still got the balls to try it. It might be a forward pass that's a little bit risky, and you try it. It might be a cross that is a 50% chance of landing on someone's head, and you take it. That's not. I would argue that's not a normal mentality, mate. That's that you're able to separate negative opinion on what you do, and you don't care. Like, where did you have that from an early age? Like, can you remember when that started?
Someone told me never take advice, or never take criticism from someone you wouldn't take advice from.
I bet somebody else has said that on this before.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, what do you care about if someone says that was rubbish? Because you're a footballer, you're going to get it anyway. Come back to opinions. Someone says you're brilliant. The person next to you, I go, oh, he's rubbish. I mean, it's all about opinions. Now, what they say shouldn't really affect you. You should go through life on a shallow thing. Shallow kill. Do you know what I mean? You shouldn't be up there, down there, up there, down there. It's not good. It's not good for your mental health. It's not good for your body. So if you're doing really well, don't get too high. If you're doing bad, don't get too low. You should have to be shallow. So if you're battering me, okay, not a problem. It's your opinion. I don't believe it, but it's your opinion. If he's praising me, oh, thanks very much. That's it. That's it. I don't get too high. I don't get too low.
And at what point in your football career, because it happens in life as well, obviously we're talking specifically about football, but people work and have in different relationships and get given positive and negative feedback all the time. But at what age were you always able to separate a negative opinion and a positive opinion for your own? I think
it come from quite young age, if I'm being honest. I mean, you get praise and stuff. You're getting praise, and a lot of people take it probably too much. They big themselves up too much. Oh, I'm the nuts now. Do you know what I mean? I'm just strolling around. But you can get cut down very quickly. And the same way, if people are down on you all the time, like I said about the parents, it has a negative effect on, especially young kids who don't really understand it. Now, going through, so I had an upstairs. So before I was at Tottenham, I was at Norwich Academy, doing well, folded, and went to a couple of trials, got a no, then went back to Sunday League. You kind of develop that, so all the negative things that you get kind of make you a person, make you a better person. And once you realise it's things you can't change. You know what I mean, okay, you went on trial somewhere, didn't get offered anything. Okay, it was unfortunate. It's sad, but you have to get over it. Okay, what's next? Always say what's next. So let's go to Bournemouth. So we won, got promoted from League One. Okay, what's next? We come 10th in the Championship. After that, we felt we should have been in the playoffs. Okay, what's next? Let's go. And we won the thing. So you always, even if you're winning stuff or if you're doing stuff in a positive manner, you got to always think what's next. Because there's always stuff next. You've got to keep moving forward and forward and forward.
I think it's interesting, mate, that a lot of the conversations I have with people, I'm very aware that football isn't, as you say, like all a high. It's not like an upward scale of everybody's perfect all the time. Like most elite guys have had some form of obstacle to come over or a negative opinion or being released, being rejected, and all this. Most people have overcome something like that. And the guys obviously that don't ultimately drop out of the game. How aware are you, were you aware of that at the time? And how did you end up, I'm so interested in your mindset, mate, but how were you able to get over things like that? Like you leave Tottenham, but you still believe you're playing at a Premier League level, at a League One team. Like how, are you aware that not everybody shared that mentality? especially like
yeah. I think the longer I went, I realised people don't have the same mentality as me. People get very. I don't think I'm very emotional. I think Mrs. tell me I'm not very. I don't think I get too emotional. I just don't let things get to me. Where that comes from, I don't really know. It's just who I am, and yeah. So I noticed that people have different mentalities to me, and that's fine. And I probably just didn't indulge myself in them. I just interact with them. Do you know what I mean? I interact with them, but then if I want to do something by myself, I do something by myself. Like if they're all going out, and I don't think they should be going out. Okay, I'm not going out. I'll tell you shouldn't go out, but I'm not going out with you. Or if they're going somewhere they shouldn't, no, I can't be asked. Don't want to go.
As in modern day football, social media is enormous. It wasn't really like, it became probably massive when you were in the Premier League, not necessarily when you were in like at Tottenham Reserves or League One and stuff like that. But social media now and being aware of what people think of you is probably more apparent, more so than ever. Like people's opinion, everybody has an opinion, but people now are allowed to voice their opinion and tag the player in it. So it's more than likely we're talking about Premier League guys who probably have management teams, but they'll see stuff about themselves.
Yeah.
And I can imagine that you were able to see positive and negative things about you and not really give a toss about it. But other people can't do that. Other people, it really affects them. What, in your opinion, can guys do if they are manipulated by that sort of stuff?
The thing that I think about all this negativity, it's so easy to be negative on social media. So easy. So easy to find negativity in anything. And it's easy, it's hard to find the positives and stuff sometimes. It's so easy to go, oh, you was da-da-da. You know what I mean? Da-da-da was rubbish today. Should be sacked. Shouldn't play again. This guy shouldn't play. So easy to do that. Because all they see is 90 minutes. They don't see you as a person. Do they? They don't see you as a person. They don't see what's happened during the week. They only see you for that 90 minutes. And if you don't perform, unfortunately, they're going to tell you. And rightly so, because it's their opinion. Now, when it crosses the line, that's when they should be accountable for. And this is what the social media platforms aren't doing at the minute. People should be accountable for what they're saying. Just like anyone, if you go to work and you do something wrong, you're going to get either fined or you're going to get in the HR office or you're going to get done for it.
Berated in some way, yeah.
And if you keep doing it, you're going to get sacked. Now, on social media, you can say whatever you want and not be sanctioned for it. That's where we're going wrong at the minute.
But how, and that...
How would you deal with it? If it was me, I probably just wouldn't read it, delete it. I mean, does everyone have to have a social media account? It's just a simple... If you're talking about simplest way of doing it, you just don't have one.
Totally agree. Listen, mate, after moving up, super interested in your journey, because although we are talking about your football and your career, it's also like, I know a lot of guys obviously that listen to this that are in the latter stages of their career and aren't necessarily youth players who could improve, like 18, 19, 20-year-olds can, and are going to be interested in your transition from playing into coaching. And obviously you are now the Watford under-18 head coach, which is unreal role to have, really. I know you're obviously relatively new to it, and probably still developing your own opinions and your own philosophy and stuff, but I'm always so interested while coaches their opinions on young players and what makes them attractive. But I think it would be right if people got a real insight into what that transition from, because most players are coach. Super difficult. Yeah. Like, what was that transition? How did it look like? What did it feel like? What did you have to do?
So I got my A license during lockdown. So I passed that while I was at Shrewsbury, Portsmouth. So I'd done that, and then during that period, I met Jimmy Gilligan, who was working for the FA at the time, and then as a course ran on, and towards the end, he became head of technical in the academy at Watford. So I was like, oh, can I can I come in and have a look around, see how you work and stuff? He was like, yeah, come down. So I signed for Colchester. So what I was doing on the Monday, mostly Mondays, I would train in the morning, then come drive down here and then coach in the afternoon. So that started from, I think, this time last year. So then I was doing that throughout from about September, October time through to January. Got to January. Unfortunately, Hayden got sacked at Colchester. And then I had a thought about it and I was like, no, I'm really enjoying coaching at the minute. Wasn't really enjoying playing anymore. Since COVID, it didn't really give me the same, didn't really have the same feeling. So I thanked Colchester and I said, look, I'm going to stop.
We'll probably divert a little bit here, but can you pinpoint what that was?
Why I stopped playing football? I played, I think someone told me I played my 500th game and I just thought, you know what, that sounds like a nice number. I just thought, yeah, I've had my time. I've done what I wanted to in football, playing wise, really enjoying coaching. Can I get into coaching? Can I get into a job somewhere? Unfortunately, Jimmy and Tom Hart was here at the time, and I ended up assisting him from basically when I left Colchester to the end of the season.
And how were you able, was it easier for you to, you've been in successful environments. So what is your opinion on, a training session and an academy players and stuff? I'm really interested to get as much information off coaches as possible. Is when you're coaching, when you're in an academy environment, what is it that makes players attractive to you?
For me, not only the technical, like anyone, you've got to be technically very good now in football, but you have to have the mindset. And the mindset is what separates the good academy players from the best academy players, is the mindset. What are they doing? I'll keep going back to it, probably because I used to be the same. What are you doing every day to improve? Are you working your hardest? Are you taking training seriously? Are you doing your gym properly? How are you around the environment? Are you polite to staff? Are you polite to, the groundsman, the people at the front desk? Are you holding yourself well? You understand what I mean? Are you growing as a person as well? Because we're not in academies. You're not only trying to make good players, you're trying to make good people as well. So we're trying desperately to do as much as we can to improve, to make them good men. Basically, we're trying to make them mans out of them. And if it doesn't happen in football, because it's such a small percentage, they're going to move on. And whether it's going to a different club or whether it's going to a university or something like that, they're going to be in a good place.
I think we can sort of strip back your life and your career and pinpoint your relationship with your father growing up that were sort of moulded your mentality into what it was, which ultimately,
and mum.
And your mother, that ultimately ended up allowing you to become a top elite footballer. Not all the guys will have parents that have those relationships as well. So do you think that mentality, and for people listening, they might not have a relationship with their parents or with anyone that is allowing them to become thick-skinned, is allowing them to be taught that this is professional. Is elite mentality and having a professional attitude coachable, do you think?
It's coachable in the sense that you can give them the information. Now, if I give you the information and keep giving the information and you don't take it on board, I can't. That's not coachable. That's just either not listening or not understanding. Because people develop at different stages, like I said before. So I might have to show you the video once. I might have to show someone else a video 5 times for it to sink in and for them to register it. But you have to give them the information. You can't just sanction and go, if they didn't have an elite mentality, because they haven't got one because you haven't shown it to them or you haven't given the information. So even at Bournemouth, we used to have a psychologist come in the Premier League, and I learnt so much from him, and that probably improved me to go even further in my mental stage.
So I mean, you were talented enough, mate, obviously, that you had a career where you had, you could use a sports psychologist, that you had the access to knowing what a professional environment looked like. But some players won't, but might want to achieve that. They might want to have an elite mentality. They might want to have, like I've discussed, a professional attitude. Where can they go if they're not being taught it? Where can they go to find out what it looks like?
I go on YouTube. So I watch motivational videos on YouTube. So Eric Thomas is a very good one. He has some really good speeches about what is your why, especially. I actually, funny enough, I showed the kids this morning, the lads this morning, what is your why, the video. Say, it does come from within, so you got to understand what he's saying, understand how that relates to you as a person and your environment. I mean, you can always read books. There's always books available. If you don't know someone, you go to your library, go get a book. There's always ways, and if you want it, you'll find it.
So what are in your opinion, obviously the short space of time that you've been looking after the lads, and are building your opinions as a coach, what are the non-negotiables players need to have from your perspective to be successful?
Non-negotiables are: don't be late. Rule number 1 in football: don't be late. You don't be late for anything. You've got 24 hours to get here. Big saying in football. You've got 24 hours to get here. That's one. Because they're not professional, they haven't got a professional contract. They got to train right. You have to train right. Yeah. If you don't train properly. Now, when I talk about it properly, for me, properly is you're listening to what I'm saying. If I'd set rules on a game and you ask me 2 seconds later, what are you doing? That's not training properly. Once you step on the training pitch, you can forget about everything else. Everything else doesn't matter. Everything else doesn't matter on the training pitch. It is freedom. So all you got to think about is football. So if you don't train properly, that's what probably annoys me the most. And maybe it's instilled in me from our time at Bournemouth. If you didn't train properly, you didn't play. And I've said that to them as well. If you don't train properly, you won't play on a Saturday. Now, if you don't play on a Saturday, how are you supposed to showcase yourself to get to that next level? And I keep saying the way that you train is the way that you play. And for me, them two are the big non-negotiables.
Well said, mate. And I'm interested to know as well, because the perception of when you leave school, you go into this academy environment, it's going to be perfect. Like you left school, you've been offered a youth team contract. I know we're talking about youth team probably as an overriding theme of this conversation, but it's because you're the under 18s manager. So when they are leaving school, these kids, and this can be used in the men's game as well. What things do they need to be aware of that are going to be a challenge?
The schedule. The schedule a lot different to when I was a scholar. So they're in 8:30, and then on a big day they probably leave about 4. It's a long day for them. And then with that you got training sessions, you've got gym sessions, you've got workshops, you got they call it SEP, which is academic. But then you've got the pressure of playing for 3 points, the pressure from me as a coach, the pressure from the 21s coach, the pressure from the academy manager, pressure from the medical staff, pressure from everywhere. Pressure is a big thing. Because obviously the older you get, the more pressure it builds and builds. Now when you come into first team, paying for a mortgage, paying for cars, maybe paying for your partner, kids might come. That's when the pressure starts. So it's giving them pressure, not too much, but they need to start learning what pressure is. Because even if you go work, pressure. And I always say pressure is a privilege. Pressure is a privilege. The more pressure you have, you must be in a privileged position.
It's a good shout, mate. Right, we're going to finish off with some quicker questions. Yeah. I'll fire through them. But what is the best piece of advice that you have ever received in your career?
Best piece of advice would be what I said before about don't take advice from people you wouldn't take. Don't take criticism. Sorry, for someone you wouldn't take advice from.
It's a good shout.
Yeah.
I've heard that quite a lot actually, and I believe that quite a lot as well. What, in your opinion, was your best performance ever?
My best performance would probably have been a few. I would have said Birmingham away. We won 8-0.
Yeah. What was it like?
Everyone was just so good that day.
But you as
but
well.
Me, yeah. But me. But as I said, we talk about the we and the me. I was really good.
When you remember, how did you feel before that game? Was there anything? I can't imagine there was anything different
there
about that game.
There was nothing different. But then, when you start scoring 2, 3, 4, then you can start enjoying it. Then, can't you? Not many games do you enjoy it.
Totally agree.
That was enjoyable. It wasn't enjoyable for Birmingham, but it was enjoyable for us. And I just kept popping. It was just nice. It was a nice feeling, especially as a defender. You don't really get it. It was a very, very nice feeling.
But you remember feeling after that game like that felt awesome.
So good. The best feeling though I had in the game was when we got promoted against Bolton. Best feeling. Because it's something that I worked towards for 27 years.
Emotional, I can imagine.
Emotional. I was so quiet. So everyone else was partying. I sat in the corner. I didn't say a word. Just sat in the corner thinking, oh my God, I'm playing Premier League next season.
Well, and that's funny because, we spent a long time with teammates and spent a lot of time with each other. And you probably like having these conversations with a lot of people that I've been friends with in football. You like learning about people's backroom stories or background stories and their journeys. And probably you haven't talked about your mentality or your journey in this much depth really before. And it's actually incredible how much, when you look back at your career, how much you did achieve and how difficult it was. That those moments when you do get promoted, they are emotional. You put so much into it. Yeah. And now learning about obviously your story, your youth career, the belief and the mentality and stretching when you're a 13-year-old and going to Tottenham games, and instead of just watching the players trying to learn from them, like it all accumulates into, you talk about 1%.
Yeah.
What does 1% ultimately accumulate in success? And it's like, I always think like it's super challenging to be able to deal with that success. You managed to do that and push on. Was that a challenge for you?
No, I always just think, what's next? What's next? I mean, to get a hand on a trophy, that was really nice. It is a special feeling. Not many players get to put a hand on a trophy. So for me, that was a really special one. And going back to, so when I used to go down my nan's, I used to watch this video, 100 Years of the Football League. And it's the same trophy, same championship trophy. So it's the same trophy as when they won it back in 1936 or whatever. So and then to get your hands on that, that was really special. So for me to win that and have that trophy with a little lady on top, it was that was a special moment. And I just couldn't believe I won that trophy that all these players had their hands on.
I should have asked you this earlier. I know like these trying to quick questions and they've probably taken longer than everything else. But at what point, or did you went into the Premier League? Did it ever feel? I can imagine it did. But at what point did it feel normal to be a Premier League player?
Straight away. For me, straight away. So that summer I didn't go away. I just trained. I didn't go away because I knew I had to. So I knew I had to be the best, the elite, as you say, the version of myself. So I didn't go away. I just worked my nuts off to be, when I come back, I'm playing. I want to be ready. Because they signed Tyrone Mings in the summer. 7 million, which was a club record. Straight onto the agent, like you would do. You got to get me out. He's like, what do you mean? I was like, they've just broke the transfer record. I was from my mum and dad as well. They've just broke the transfer record. I said, they're not going to not play him, are they? I said, why would you sign someone for 7 million and not play him? Like, oh, yeah. But then mum and dad went, look, game on, innit? You've got him there. It's game on. However, you better come back in shape. So that's what I did.
He never went up. How
No.
quickly after the end of the season did they sign him? Almost immediately.
Quite quick, I think.
Yeah. And then just from there it was.
It was before then. I just knew I needed to get myself in shape, like
you
proper.
Had a bit of an extra motivation.
You always have a bit of an extra motivation, especially when they sign someone in your position, and they signed so many left backs. Eddie signed so many left backs, so it was challenging every season, but you just give that a little bit more motivation.
It's such an incredible mindset, mate, to get promoted into the Championship as winning the league, and to think I ain't going to really celebrate this for too long. I'm just going to go and graft.
I was going
and get
into
better.
Premier League, yeah.
Awesome. Who's the best player that you've played with?
Delta Rap.
What? Yeah, good.
So good. I never laughed so much on a football pitch watching him when he was young. Awesome. What a player, honestly.
Making everything look
so simple.
Yeah.
I mean, when he went to QPR, he was like that every week. Brilliant player.
The most important attribute, in your opinion, that players need to have if they're going to make a career out of the game?
Being able to run for 90 minutes. When I mean run, I mean like high-speed running as well.
That's not been spoken about on here. That's not something that anybody said.
Because football nowadays is more athletic. You need to be able to run for 90+ minutes at full pace. If you don't have that, you won't be a professional footballer. You won't be a Premier League player, an elite player.
Remember them the fitness tests that we used to do at Bournemouth, man? They were silly, but like everybody was fit. I remember like watching you guys play, like ultimately watching you guys play against other teams just looked so much fitter, like so much sharper.
Much better. You feel so good. Nothing better, no better feeling than feeling fit.
I tell you, and one summer, whilst obviously I have like mutual friend Steve Cook, who's like his podcast just been released. In one summer, he went away with his family and was training in Portugal in the summer. And I just signed for Bristol Rovers, and like you say, I was like, I want to be the best version of myself that I possibly could be. And so I reached out to Steve and said, what are you doing this summer? He said, blah, 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 I'm going to Portugal. Like, I've got the fitness coach coming out. And I was like, I wouldn't mind a bit of that. So he invited me and ended up going over for a week, and we trained together every day. I remember almost thinking, I'm going to compete with him. Like, he don't know I am, but I'm going to compete with him because he's a Premier League player. I'm only a League One player, but like I'm going to try and be as fit as him or see where I'm at. I remember the first day we were like super similar in terms of, the fitness drill that we did. I think we did 1,600 metres and we basically crossed the line at the same time. And I was thinking, I feel good about myself, feel fit. The next day, I couldn't keep up. I was like, my body wasn't able to recover. He went again. Like, and I think that was the difference in the elite was that we might have been as fit as each other at our best, but he was able to just churn it out every day, day after day after day. Last one, mate. I know, like England playing Germany tonight. Charlie's got tickets, so I've got to send him on his way. But
quick.
Last one. What advice would you give to a young Charlie Daniels just starting out his career?
What would I say? I would say, what would I tell him to do? I would tell him to enjoy it probably a bit more. Enjoy it a bit more.
Common. That's common that people say enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, because you're so focused and you just want it to happen. You want it to happen.
Difficult though,
It's difficult when you're looking back. It is difficult. I'd say enjoy it a bit more. I mean, I did enjoy it, but it's not the same as like enjoying it. But I think I would say that. Smile a bit more, maybe. I'm very, very serious when I'm on a pitch.
But there's no way of knowing that you wouldn't have the success that you do if you enjoyed it a little bit more. But listen, Chaz, I really appreciate your time, mate, your opinions and your advice. It was, incredible conversation. I hope that a lot of people could take a lot from it. So thank you for that.
Cheers, Parts. Thanks a lot.
Good.